Yeah. So if I have suppose function of one variable. Okay, let me start with the function of one variable f of x. Then let me take function of two variable, then function of three variable. Okay. Now, how do you define df here? Or how do you define df here according to our calculus rule? Dou f by dou x dx plus dou f by dou y dy plus dou f by dou z dz. Right? Again, our aim is to discuss this one, okay? Because we always talk about three dimension. Obviously, our parameters will be function of x, y, z, okay? Ordinarily. So now this df is equal to, how do you write for one variable? A kind of dou f by dou x into dx, am I right? But this partial derivative doesn't have any meaning because it is a function of only one variable, isn't it? It's a function of only one variable. That's why you better write df by dx into dx. Now look at here. What I have written? Df by dx equal to df by dx, isn't it? That means this is a kind of slope, isn't it? This will talk about, this derivative will talk about how f changes, the change in f when there is a change in x, isn't it? So again, so to generalize that one to three dimension, I have to write like this. Is that okay? Again, if you take this one here, what would you see? Df by dx equal to df by dx. Okay, that's not my aim. My aim is to say change in f that is related to change in x. So by the slope, a kind of slope here, or we call that one as differentiation, isn't it? So similarly, if I generalize that one to two variable, df is equal to dou f by dou x into dx plus dou f by dou y into dy. Okay, in two and three variables, so it's very visible. Am I right? So change in f is due to change in x, change in y. So again, so in this case, change in f is due to change in x, change in y, change in z, isn't it? So all three variables. So now look at here. Again, our aim is not to discuss this one. Ultimately, our parameters will be function of all three variables. Okay, let me talk about this one. So now let me take one example. The best example here is, again, I'm just getting into this gradient, divergence and curves. Okay, differential calculus. So in that one, let me take, obviously, so let me take one example. Example is temperature. So temperature is usually function of point in space. Am I right? So I better write x comma y comma z, isn't it? Suppose so we have a window here in this room, isn't it? We have a fan here. So that's why at different point in space you will have a different temperature. Am I right? Temperature will be function of x, y, z. You can take corner of the room. So suppose that is one is z axis, x axis, y axis, isn't it? You can choose your origin at one corner of the room, and at different point, obviously our temperature will be different. Am I right? So in that case, temperature is a function of x, y, z. Let me take example. Okay, but so I have to generalize the whole story. Okay, ultimately I have to generalize the whole story. So now when I have any scalar variable, any scalar function which is a function of three variables, I can define dt. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? If there is no reply, that's mean, yeah. So dou t by dou x into dx plus dou t by dou y into dy plus dou t by dou z into dz. These are very fundamental theorems, am I right? In calculus, if t is a function of x, y, z, scalar, is that okay? So now I can write like this. Now that t can be anything. Okay, I have taken temperature because so I can interpret lot of things. Okay, using the temperature. Again, later we will switch over to potential. Okay, our main aim is switching over to potential. Yeah. So now look at here. So this will tell the change in t when you change x, when you change y, when you change z. Am I right? So now look at here. I'm going to rewrite this one. Manipulate this one. Dou t by dou x into x cap plus dou t by dou y into y cap plus dou t by dou z into z cap. Okay, I'm purposefully writing this one, rewriting this one. Dot product with dx into x cap plus dy into y cap plus dz into z cap. When you take the dot product, you will get this. And again, let me restrict myself to Cartesian coordinate right now. Is that okay? This whole thing can be written like this. Look at here, dt. I can write this one like this. Now we are going to name this one as one type, this one as other type. We are going to call this one as gradient of a scalar. Gradient of a scalar. We are going to call this one as what we call this one as. Any idea? dl vector, displacement vector. What would you call? dl. It's a kind of infinitely small displacement vector. Look at here. So dl vector, look at here. Yeah. So now gradient of t. So again, that's equal to dou t by dou x into x cap plus dou t by dou y into y cap plus dou t by dou z into z cap. Okay. So dl vector is equal to dx into x cap plus dy into y cap plus dz into z cap. It's a kind of infinitely small displacement vector, isn't it? So you have changed x coordinate by a very small variable, y coordinate by a small variable, z by a very small variable. So combined displacement, infinitely small displacement vector. What would you call dx actually? Infinitely small change in x, am I right? So like that, this is a vector, okay, displacement vector, infinitely small displacement vector. Is that okay? I can call like that. So now look at here. So this change in that scalar. So the change in scalar. So I can just write like this, isn't it? I can just write like this. Again, this is manipulated. Okay, this is manipulated. So yeah, wait a second. Now this is a vector quantity, okay, gradient of a scalar. We call this one as a gradient of a scalar. We have to read like that, okay. Gradient of a scalar. We have to call like that, gradient of a scalar. That's a vector quantity. Wait a second. We have to interpret that one, okay. We have to interpret that one. Yeah, you better write this one. Just name this one. What is this one? Infinitely small displacement vector. Write down. This one has infinitely small displacement vector. So now ultimately change in temperature, I can write it as, I call gradient of temperature dot product with infinitely small displacement vector. Now the question, I said change in temperature. When we are talking about change in temperature, I mean, so you have to move in space, am I right? If you have moved in space by this displacement vector, this is the change in temperature. You got to say like that. Is that okay? So now wait a second. Let me start with this one. dx, dy, dz. Those are change in x and y, x, y, and z. Am I right? So now, so what is this one? So this is the change in temperature. This is the change in temperature. Actually, I should have gone for very earlier one. If you see any basic calculus book, so they will start with T2 minus T1. Then they will take limit, and they will so define these things usually. Okay, you can just see that one, multivariable calculus book. So they will use very basic thing. Now look at here. I am starting with this one. What is this one? Change in temperature when there is a change in x, change in y, change in z. Am I right? Those change in x, change in y, change in z, as a result, it's a kind of moving in a space. Remember, am I right? So change in x, change in y, change in z. So combiningly, it's equivalent to moving in a space. So that is defined by this one. Am I right? Look at here. If there is a change in x by dx, change in y by this one, change in z by this one. Look at here. Now this is a displacement in a space, infinitely small displacement. We are talking about that one. Is that okay? When you see this one, you are not talking about displacement in space. You are just talking about change in x, change in y, change in z. in a pure scalar format. When you write this equation, so now this is the change in temperature when you do this much displacement in a space in that particular direction, isn't it? So that's why, so small change, small difference here from here to here. Now let me start interpret that one. That's what is that? Okay, let me start interpreting that one. So now geometrical interpretation of gradient. Geometrical interpretation of gradient. Is that okay? Yeah, power may go anytime. Not for you. For them. That's equal to what we have written, gradient of T. We define that one like this, dot dl. Am I right? Dot dl. Now let me take geometrical interpretation of spelling gradient. Remember, we defined gradient by taking this one, isn't it? By initially taking this definition. That's why without going to that one, you can't have any geometrical interpretation. Remember, you have to start with this one. What is this one? dt is equal to del t dot dl. Am I right? Del t dot dl. Now we shall do some manipulations here. Okay. So what is this one? Again, ultimately, when you have this much displacement, infinitely small displacement, so this much change in the temperature. So temperature or some scalar variable when you move in space. Okay, when you move in space. Now look at here. So can I write this one as mod del t? Del t is a vector. Am I right? Mod del t mod dl into cos of the angle between them. Isn't it? Cos of the angle between them. Now look at here. Now let me take this dl constant. Usually infinitely small displacement. That's we will not make it variable usually. So I mean, actually we can't talk much about that one. Am I right? How large dx is? Isn't it? How large dx is? We are going to assume wherever we write that dx, that has same length. So the similar thing will happen in this case. So let me take dl equal to constant for a time. Mod dl, okay? Mod dl equal to constant. Now I am going to move in a different direction. I am going to move in a different direction and I am going to check out in which direction change in temperature is maximum. What is this one? Change in temperature, okay? In which, so what is the theta? Theta is the angle between gradient and dl vector. Am I right? Yeah, you better write like this. Theta is the angle between gradient and dl vector. Dl means displacement vector. Is that okay? So now look at here. So let me keep mod dl constant. So keeping mod dl constant, we vary theta. What do you mean by we are varying theta? We are changing the direction of displacement, but amount of displacement is same. Infinitely small displacement, amount of displacement is same. I mean, so magnitude of the displacement is same, but we are displacing in a different direction. In one particular direction, we are getting change in temperature maximum. What is the direction? So here, look at that one. In one particular direction, now you have to talk about theta, isn't it? Theta will define the direction. When you make the displacement along with the gradient of T, along with gradient, so you are getting maximum change in temperature, isn't it? So when dl vector is along gradient T, so change in T is maximum. Or if we displace along gradient t direction, there will be maximum change in t is maximum. Can you just observe it? Yeah, speak out. Usually this is not a variable, okay, usually, because that's infinitely small displacement, okay. So, but when we displace along, so when theta equal to 0, that means we are del t and dl are along the same direction, that means we are displacing along the direction of this gradient. Gradient is now one strange vector, am I right? We have to understand that, isn't it? In the whole story, I just introduced one strange vector. Now our aim is to understand it. So that's a very, ulta way. We are not going to directly tackling that one. Okay, we can't do that one. We can't do that one because it is defined in this basic definition. Remember, okay. So we are indirectly, understanding that one. What we do? So when we move along the same direction of this strange vector, we call it as gradient of a scalar. So the change in temperature or change in this scalar is maximum. Isn't it? That's you can observe. So now, so by this one you can have one thing, okay. You can so you can have one property. So what is this gradient? Am I right? That's our question. What is this gradient? So now one thing is, so gradient of t, so points along, or wait a second, let me just give this sentence. Okay, gradient of t points in the direction of maximum increase of the function. Points in the direction of maximum increase. Points in the direction of maximum increase of the function t. Isn't it? Again, we understood this one in a different way. Remember, not directly. Yeah. Now you have a vector quantity. Am I right? First, talk about what is its direction. Next one is talk about its magnitude. It's done. Am I right? By this interpretation, what I have done is, I moved in various directions. So this is my displacement vector. I moved in various directions. What I found is, when I moved along the same direction of this change vector, gradient vector, so I found, so change in temperature is maximum. So that's why, that's why in a reverse way, this should point in the, maximum. So this should point in the direction of maximum increase of the function or maximum change of the function. That is the best way. Maximum increase or maximum change. No, it's a vector. It's a vector. Why did you say curvature? No, that's what we are trying to do. That one. Look at here. The very basic definition is this one. In this relation, the very basic definition lies in this relation. Actually, is that okay? So now again you have a vector. First interpretation is what is its direction, isn't it? Now what is the interpretation? So move in a different direction. What you found is, when you move along the direction of this vector, so you found change in temperature is maximum, isn't it? Cos 0, that's maximum. So that's why we say, so gradient of t is a vector, it points in the direction of maximum increase of the function. Yeah, speak out. Quickly. Gradient is a vector. Why did you say it's a surface? Wait a second. You can define a surface using gradient. I think you might have confused with it. You can define a surface with gradient dot product with something. You can have an equation of surface. Yeah. So now, okay. I think gradient at any point, it may give a normal to the surface. Am I right? That's what you are trying to say. It will give the direction normal to the surface. If you take gradient at any point, it will give normal to the surface. No, I'm not talking about that one. I'm just tackling what is gradient. Is that okay? Physically. So now look at here. Next one. So next one is, yeah. So suppose if I moved along the, so suppose if I take theta equal to 0, what do you mean by theta equal to 0 degree? You are moving the, so I mean you are moving along the direction of gradient. Is that okay? Your displacement is along the direction of gradient and you have maximum change in temperature. Am I right? So now look at here. So dt is equal to, in that case, I can write mod of gradient of t into mod of dl into cos 0, 1. Am I right? So now, but it is maximum. Am I right? This is a maximum. This is a maximum change. So can I say like that? This whole thing is maximum change. So because that's what we have done. Am I right? Earlier step. Cos 0, that's maximum value. So now what I do here is dt by dl vector, mod of dl vector is equal to mod of gradient. Now what would you see? It's a kind of rate of change of temperature. Am I right? It's a kind of rate of not, a kind of rate of change of temperature. Am I right? So maximum rate of change of temperature, because when we take theta equal to 0, change in temperature was maximum. Okay. So what is the next interpretation? So mod of gradient of t. So that is, yeah. So can you just write the magnitude mod of gradient of t, the magnitude mod of gradient of t gives the I should not say rate of change. Okay, whenever I say just rate of change, that time parameter will come usually. Okay, you better write rate of increase. Rate of increase gives the rate of increase, or sometimes you can call it a slope. Sometimes you can call it as a slope along the how to say, along this maximum direction. You have to say like that, isn't it? Because we put theta equal to 0. Remember, at what so condition we have taken dt by dl? By putting theta equal to 0, isn't it? So theta equal to 0 means we are moving along the direction of gradient. Okay. So along this maximum, so along this, right, like this, along this maximal direction. The magnitude gives a rate of increase or a slope along this maximal direction. So that's again, so just look at this equation. I'm just manipulating it. Yeah, any question quickly? Yeah, so that's what I was expecting, isn't it? So whether it was increase, then also change in that one is maximum. Am I right? I mean, so change in that one is maximum. Then you better to what you call, rewrite the whole thing. Better not to write increase, change here, isn't it? Rate of change. So here also you better not to write rate of increase, rate of change, so that can be either positive or negative. Am I right? That's correct. So when theta equal to 180 degree, then change is maximum. Is that okay? I was discussing only theta equal to 0. That's correct, isn't it? When cos 180 degree, you have minus 1, isn't it? Mod of that value is also maximum. Am I right? So that's correct. Okay. When theta equal to, if you want to generalize theta equal to 0 degree or 180 degree, you better to write change here. Wherever I have written increase, you better write change here. Is that okay? Yeah. So now look at here. Observe one more fact here. Wait a second. One is gradient points in the direction of maximum increase of the function t. So that's by just directing our displacement vector along the gradient, we got that idea. Another one, while moving along that maximal direction, Okay, what we got, magnitude of the gradient is equal to, so rate of increase, am I right, dt by change in length, am I right? So change in temperature divided by, or changing that scalar quantity divided by, so change in that so distance, am I right? I can just call this mod of displacement as a kind of distance, isn't it? So that's why we can call this one as a rate of increase along this maximal direction. Is that okay? Now look at here. Okay, we were talking about theta equal to 0 degree or 180 degree. You can talk about this, I mean theta equal to 180 degree also. So look at this one very carefully. Yeah, whenever you talk about magnitude of gradient, look at here, that is the rate of increase along the maximal direction, okay? Remember, so let me just take you in this way, okay? In space, you have different temperature at different space, okay? So now let me just assume that I am going to put one fire, one corner of this room. Is that okay? When you move away from that fire, your temperature is obviously decreasing. Or when you move towards that fire, your temperature will increase, isn't it? Now look at it. So now from that fire, you are moving outward and your temperature will decrease, am I right? So while moving in space, you have different directions, am I right? So when you move in one particular direction, so change in temperature will be maximum, am I right? So suppose if you have a fire at one corner, if you move usually diagonally outward of this room, suppose room is what you call cubicle. There, okay, let me take that idea. Okay, so what I am going to do here is I have a fire here at this corner. So now look at here, you are moving away from that one. So in which direction the change in temperature is maximum, isn't it? Yeah, when you move radially away or when you move diagonally outward, usually change in temperature is maximum, am I right? Suppose take one sphere, you are moving on the surface of the sphere which centered at this point. So take one spherical surface which is centered at this fire. Then when you move on that one, your temperature will not change, isn't it? So that's why change in temperature, that depends on in which direction you move, isn't it? Now, so take that idea. In that idea, look at here. When you move in different direction, the rate of change of temperature is also different, right? Are you getting my point? When you move in different direction, rate of change of temperature or rate of increase of or rate of decrease of temperature, that's different in different direction, am I right? When you move radially outward from that point, your rate of decrease is maximum, am I right? So when you move perpendicular to the radial direction, then the rate of decrease is very minimum or 0, am I right? When you move on the surface, suppose I have a fire here, so take one surface, I mean spherical surface which is centered at this fire, with fire as a center. Now when you move on that spherical surface, obviously your temperature will be same, isn't it? Now look at here, rate of change of temperature, that depends on the direction that you move, isn't it? So now I am going to define one more quantity, we call it directional derivative. Directional derivative. Now look at here, this is not a maximum rate of change. So now you can call this one as, look at here. So this gives the rate of increase in the maximal direction, means you can call it as maximum rate of change, because in that direction we got maximum change in the temperature, obviously, isn't it? You can call roughly, write down. So mod of gradient of T, that is maximum rate of change of temperature. Maximum rate of change of temperature. And what does happens when you move along the gradient direction actually. Magnitude of gradient of T is maximum rate of change of, maximum possible rate of change of T. Isn't it? Because, so whenever you want to define mod of gradient of T, you have to get rid of this theta part. Am I right? Simply, when you want to define this one, you have to get rid of the theta part. Then what will you do? Theta equal to 0. Or you can take 180 degree also. You can take 180 degree also, minus 1. So now that's equal to dt by dl vector. Am I right? Isn't it? So now that should be maximum rate of change. Is it okay? This should be maximum rate of change. Or in that direction, change in the temperature is maximum. That's what this says. Am I right? That's what this says. So change in temperature is maximum. dl is same. Am I right? So numerator is maximum. Denominator dl vector. That's the infinitely small displacement. We will never change this one. Remember. So now we will take that is always constant. So then numerator is change in this dt, that's maximum in that direction. That's why this should be maximum rate of change. Isn't it? So denominator is same. Am I right? So denominator is same for all displacement. Mod of dl vector is same. But this is maximum. That's why this ratio is maximum in that direction when theta equal to 0 degree. So that's why you can roughly call what is that mod of or magnitude of gradient as a maximum rate of increase of t. Okay, maximum rate of increase of t. Now look at it. So next one, what I do here is I am going to keep that cos theta as it is. Okay, when I keep that cos theta, if I put theta other than 0 or 180 degree, then this change in temperature is not maximum, but there will be change in temperature, isn't it? When you move in a different direction, obviously you will get change in temperature. Just take that idea. Fire at one place of the space and you are moving in a different direction, isn't it? If you move only radially away from the fire, then only change in temperature is maximum. If you move in other direction, definitely change in temperature is not that maximum compared to when you move away from the fire, isn't it? Now look at here. So dt, I am going to keep that cos theta as it is, del t dl cos theta. Suppose I am moving in some arbitrary direction. Is that okay? So then I am going to define dt by dl. When I move in arbitrary direction, I am going to define it as del t into cos theta. Is that okay? So del t into cos theta. Now what is this one? Now look at here. This is other than del t. Am I right? If theta is other than 0 or 180 degree, this whole thing should be other than magnitude of this one. Am I right? So now, usually this is less than the earlier magnitude. The whole magnitude of this one is less than the, obviously you have cos theta, which is -1 to +1. Obviously, whole magnitude is less than the earlier. Am I right? Look at here. So now this expression itself says, so when theta equal to 0 degree, you got rate of change is equal to what you call so magnitude of the gradient. Am I right? So now what is this one, this whole quantity? Now look at here, we call this one as directional derivative. This is rate of change. Obviously this ratio says rate of change, am I right? Or rate of increase when you move in some arbitrary direction with an angle theta with a gradient. Is that okay? Let me try to interpret this one in a different way. Okay, in a different way, we call this one as directional derivative. This whole thing, we call this one as directional derivative. So this will talk about rate of change of t along some particular direction. And we call this one as directional derivative. Yeah, so that's what happens when you have a fire at the center of the spherical surface. Suppose when you move on the spherical surface, so then obviously your gradient direction is radial outward. Okay, let me try to interpret. Then when you move along theta or phi direction, so theta and phi are perpendicular to your r cap. Am I right? You have to go for spherical polar coordinate to interpret that one. So then obviously when you move along theta cap or phi cap, obviously that gradient, so what is that one? The change is zero. Okay, so let me interpret that when theta equal to 90 degrees. We call this one as directional derivative. Let me try to interpret in a very easy way. very easy way. Look at here. What is theta? Theta is the angle between dl vector and So what is this one? Rate of change of t along some particular direction. What is that direction? The direction of displacement. Am I right? Again, obviously there should be direction of displacement. Now look at here. I am going to assume there is one unit vector along dl vector. I am going to assume unit vector along dl. Is that okay? So now what is this del t cos theta? Any idea? That is projection of gradient along dl vector. What is theta? Theta is the angle between del t and dl. Am I right? So del t cos theta. Again, so take the example of our dot product. Am I right? So what was b cos theta? Projection of b along a. What is del t cos theta? How you define theta? You have to go for how you define theta. How did you define? Yeah. So theta is the angle between dl vector and del t vector. Am I right? So now del t cos theta is projection of del t along the direction of displacement. Am I right? Let me take a unit vector along the displacement. Is that okay? What is this one? Unit vector along displacement. Is that okay? So now I can just write, look at here, dt is equal to, let me take very earlier definition, del t dot dl vector. Del t dot dl vector. What I do here is divide by mod of dl vector into mod of dl vector. I could have written direct expression, okay? So that directly the del t cos theta is dot product with n cap, obviously, that's the projection. Am I right? So now let me take this dl vector here, dt by dl vector, that's equal to del t dot product with n cap. What is n cap? That is the unit vector along the displacement direction. Is that okay? So that's why dot product of gradient along or projection of gradient along any given direction, it will give directional derivative. Is that okay? So that's the directional derivative. What is this one? This will represent rate of change of t along n cap direction. Can I say like that? Directional derivative means rate of change of that parameter along that direction. Direction, you have to talk any direction by unit vector. That's the best idea. Am I right? Because unit vector will not impose any magnitude, isn't it? So any direction you better talk with a unit vector. So that's why. So what is this one? Del t dot n cap is rate of change of t along n cap. Rate of change of t along n cap. That's why we call it as directional derivative. Now let me get you the simplest form of this one. Look at here. How did you define gradient of t? Dou t by dou x into x cap plus dou t by dou y into y cap plus dou t by dou z into z cap. Am I right? You defined gradient like this. Now, so dot product with x cap. What would you get? What should you get? You should get rate of change in the x direction. Am I right? When you take dot product with x cap, what would you get? So these two parts will 0. Dou t by dou x. What is this? Rate of change with respect to x. Am I right? So that's nothing but one of the directional derivatives. Is that okay? So this is the this is the derivative along x-axis. That's the partial derivative definition. Look at here. You can define partial derivative in this way also, isn't it? So, but partial derivative with respect to x, with respect to y, with respect to z, those are directional derivative with respect to that direction actually. If you want to take, if you want to find rate of change in some arbitrary direction other than x cap, y cap, z cap, then you have to go for this one. So take a unit vector along that arbitrary direction make dot product with gradient, you will get that idea. Am I right? Similarly, del t dot y cap, what is this one? Dou t by dou y, directional derivative along y axis. So del t dot z cap, what is this one? Dou t by dou z, directional derivative along z axis. Isn't it? So similarly, look at here, similarly, I better to write like this, that's the best way. Del t dot n cap is equal to some dou t by dou n, let me write like this. N is the variable along n cap direction, define in your way. Isn't it? Earlier I have written mod dl or something here. Is that okay? Dou t by dou n, where n is the what you call variable along n cap direction. You can define in your way. Isn't it? Yeah. Repeat. Yeah. No. Mod of gradient, modulus of gradient is a maximum rate of change. Isn't it? Now again go for this equation and think over it, okay? So the whole thing, if you haven't understood any of this idea, start writing this one. Again, start with this one. What is this one? dt is equal to mod del t mod dl into cos theta. Now ask the question. No, not like that. We are moving in one particular direction. In that particular direction, we are talking about the rate of change. Yeah. As the length changes in that particular direction, that is change in length mod of dl, that's constant, usual. Am I right? So again, that's it's a kind of dx. What is dx? Dx will not take different value in different cases. Remember, dx value is always same. It is infinitely small, but it is always same. So this dl, mod dl play the same role as that of dx here. It will not change. It will not change. But what will change? Theta will change. According to that one, dt by dl will change. Look at here. dt by dl vector. Isn't it? Now take this idea, take this equation, try to interpret everything. Whatever the question that arises here, go for this equation and try to interpret. First thing, what is the direction of gradient of t? So when theta equal to 0, you are getting maximum change in t in this equation. Am I right? So that's why when you move along the direction of gradient of t, you are getting maximum change. That's why gradient of t should be point in the maximum change. Isn't it? So now next one. So when theta equal to 0, when you move along maximum change, so your theta will be equal to 0, then dt by dl is equal to magnitude of gradient of t. Isn't it? To define magnitude, you better to make theta equal to 0. Isn't it? So now when theta equal to 0, dt by dl, that is nothing but rate of change along the maximum direction or along the direction of gradient. Isn't it? So again, don't use gradient because that's what we have to interpret later, isn't it? Now, so define this one as maximum rate of change. You can call it as maximum rate of change. I have taken this one constant, am I right? So now in theta equal to 0, so when theta equal to 0, this is maximum. That's why this ratio is maximum. This rate of change is maximum. That's why magnitude of the gradient, maximum value. Am I right? Rate of change. Maximum rate of change is nothing but gradient. Direction is nothing but direction of maximum rate of change or direction of maximum change. Simply. Isn't it? Whatever the question arises, write down this one and think of it. Because our basic definition started with it. Our gradient definition started with it. Is that okay? Suppose if you keep that cos theta, that becomes directional derivative. If you keep that dot product, that becomes directional derivative. Is that okay? Question. So now look at here. Let me take one example. He has taken one very practical example. Okay, imagine we are standing on a hill. Okay, suppose I have some hill. So I'm on a hill. Okay, here. So now I have to go down. I have to go down. Now you got many choices. Am I right? So now, if you take height as a function, usually that height will be the function of two variables. Why? This is a surface. Am I right? You can just define surface here. Height will be the function of two variables, isn't it? At different point, height will be the function of two variables. He designed one very nice question on that one. You have to solve after this class. Okay. So now height is a function of x and y. Am I right? Now look at here at different so when you take different x and y, your height will be different. Am I right? So now, so from when you are standing here, if you look at the if you look at the direction of maximum slope, that is the direction of the gradient. If you look at the direction of maximum slope, suppose somewhere here you have steepest path from that hill, isn't it? Steepest path means height will change in the maximum rate, isn't it? So now along the steepest path you have gradient, and if you take slope of that steepest path, that is the magnitude of the gradient. Are you getting my point? You are standing on the hill. Now height is a function. If you look at the direction of the steepest path to the ground, so then along that direction, height function changes in the maximum way. Am I right? So that's why. So that direction is nothing but your gradient of that height function, and magnitude of the gradient is nothing but slope along this direction. Is that okay? One interpretation. So other one is you better to take. Suppose I have a fire here, or I have a tungsten bulb which is placed here. So now you have a spherical surface, or so take your spherical polar coordinate. Okay, so take your spherical polar coordinate. When you move radially outward, so that tungsten bulb that is placed as the origin of your coordinate. Now you are moving radially outward. Obviously, when you move radially outward, your temperature changes in the maximum way. Am I right? So now along again. So now your temperature is a parameter. Okay, temperature as a function of x, y, z, r, theta, phi, or something. Is that okay? Now when you move along the radially outward direction, along r cap direction, if we talk about our spherical polar coordinate, so your change in temperature is maximum. So that's why I can say, so a gradient of T, it is along r cap direction in this case. Gradient of T, it is along r cap direction. By keeping that hot body at the at the origin of my spherical polar coordinate, I can say gradient of T points along the r cap direction, because along radially outward, temperature changes in the maximum direction. Am I right? So the next idea is, what is the magnitude of that one? Rate of change along that direction. Is that okay? What is the magnitude of that one? That's the rate of change along that direction. That is nothing but, I think, dou T by dou R. Let me discuss all of this after I introduce that polar coordinate. Is that okay? Yeah. Any question? Speak up. So now, quickly do some problems. So example number 1.3, he defined a function r equal to root of x square plus y square plus z square. What is this one? Position vector, magnitude of the position vector. Am I right? Magnitude of the position vector. Now look at here. Yeah, this is a magnitude of the position vector. That magnitude of the position vector, that will change when you move radially outward. Suppose if you are moving on a sphere which centered at the origin, your magnitude of the position vector will not change. Am I right? Are you getting my point? Now let me take this one. Let me take one sphere. If you are moving on the sphere, okay, again, so for this point somewhere in the space, this is the position vector. Am I right? This is the magnitude of the position vector. So that magnitude of the position vector will change only when you move radially outward or only when you move other than the theta cap or phi cap direction, remember. So that's why now you have to find its gradient. Find the gradient. You will definitely feel something here. Find that one. What is this one? Dou t by, sorry, again t is coming. Dou r by dou x into x cap plus dou r by dou y into y cap plus dou r by dou z into z cap. That's example number 1.3. Example number 1.3. Yeah, dou r by dou x means 1 by 2 root of x square plus y square plus z square into 2x, x cap. So 2y by 2 root of, look at here, x square plus y square plus z square, y cap. 2z by 2 root of x square plus y square plus z square, z cap. Yeah, actually, as I used to relax at this time. So that's why my mind is not thinking. Lot of interpretation can be done. Just read out and come out with a question. Okay, let me answer. So now look at here. If you are preparing for CSIR NET exam, you have to be active from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, isn't it? Because exam will be from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, isn't it? So soon after the class, if you start relaxing, isn't it? And that will be continued over 6 months, and that will be practiced, and your mind will not work at 9 o'clock. Yeah, be careful. One of the students used to sleep at 2 o'clock. GATE exam is from 2 to 5. And he was saying it was somehow difficult like that. He was saying, I felt very uncomfortable. Because of that fact. Again, if you practice that sleeping for 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock daily, definitely your mind will not think, remember, the same time period. Okay, you have to, so don't neglect this one. Okay, it's very serious problem. So whatever we practice, that will be continued, isn't it? So be active at 9 o'clock, 9 to 12. Or we shall change our schedule while revising. That's better, isn't it? Let me close the class by 7:30 revision. So that if you want to relax from 7:30 to 8:30. Be active from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, at least 1 month. Practice that one. Okay, that's very important. So soon after the class, suppose if you watch YouTube, watching Facebook, if you practice that one, isn't it? Your mind will be trained with that one. Now, literally, I can't think actually right now. Only mathematics is coming, not interpretation. Interpretation is not coming properly. Yeah. At least our mind will think logically, isn't it? So now look at here. X cap plus y cap plus z cap divided by root of x square plus y square plus z square. What is this one? R vector divided by mod of r. R cap. Now what is the direction of this gradient? Radially outward. Magnitude is unity, isn't it? Magnitude is unity. That's okay. You can't interpret much. Now, why magnitude is unity? Any idea? Again, I have to go for spherical polar coordinate to interpret that. Now, how do you define mod of del r? Any idea? del r dot r cap. Am I right? Again. Okay. Now, if you write this one in spherical polar coordinate, actually, let me write in the next class. Okay, you will get dou r by dou r. What is that one? 1. Are you getting my point? Rate of change of radial vector along the radial vector direction is 1 actually. Because you will end up with this one, am I right? Earlier I used to write dou t by dou n, do you remember? Along n cap direction. Now you have to write dou r by dou r along r cap direction. Obviously that would be 1. Are you getting my point? Rate of change, that will be 1. Yeah, let me try to interpret later. So still in a different. So that's why obviously your position vector, magnitude of the position vector, that will change the maximal amount along r cap direction, and so that's why you got gradient which is pointing along that direction. Now can I ask one here? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Whatever the thing we have, one thing is we have to formulate that. Isn't it? Whatever the situation we have. I have taken only one source or something so that I can explain that. In this direction it is maximum like that. Okay? Yeah. Again, later, again I am going to switch over to charges. If I have a charge, if I move radially outward from the charge, my potential will change in the maximum amount. And in that direction, I will have electric field. So that electric field is equal to gradient of potential with one more negative. Are you getting my point? Rate of maximum, I mean, in the direction of maximum change in potential, I have my field, electric field. So that's how it is formulated. Let me try to interpret later when we get into that topic. Okay, but now, so just to do all this mathematical part. So problem number 1.11, okay, or 11th problem, first chapter 11th problem, and 12th problem, you can do that one. 13th problem also, try them, let me do tomorrow, okay, let me do it tomorrow. So try them. He has taken gradient of italic r, okay, and I need that one, okay, let me comment on that one. Italic r contains x, y, z, x prime, y prime, z prime. Am I right? If you split out that italic r, that's a separation vector. We have written in the morning. Now, if you take gradient with respect to which you have to take derivative, with respect to x, y, z or x prime, y prime, z prime. You have two different situations. In one situation you take, I mean, in the application, okay. In one situation you are going to take derivative with respect to x, y, z. X, y, z as field point. Okay, x, y, z are field point. In some cases, we are going to take derivative with respect to x prime, y prime, z prime. Those are source point. Okay, in our polarization theory, electric fields in matter, you need to take derivative with respect to source point actually to define polarization vector. Okay. So similarly, so in this case, if you are talking about electric field or something, you have to take derivative with respect to field point. Okay, yeah. Let me discuss in the application. That's also very nice problem, 13th problem, okay. 1.11, 1.12, 1.13 in my book, okay. In the new book, 11, 12, 13 in the first chapter. Is that okay? Now, after defining gradient of a scalar like this, dou t by dou x into x cap. Now, let me rewrite this one, okay. Let me rewrite this one. How? X cap into dou by dou t by dou x, whatever. Am I right? I can place that x cap anywhere. So because x cap is not an operator, isn't it? Unit vector plus y cap into dou t by dou y plus z cap into dou t by dou z, isn't it? So now what is the next step? Any idea? We are going to define operator, del operator. That's equal to x cap into dou by dou x plus y cap into dou by dou y plus z cap into dou by dou z. Is that okay? So now we are going to define some more thing with the del operator. We call this one as del operator. Again, that is again very first thing that we do here is definition of gradient. From that definition of gradient, we are going to grab this operator. We are going to call this one as del operator. Is that okay? We are going to call it as del operator. Now you can treat the del operator similar to vector, not exactly same as vector. Is that okay? So for a vector, you can do many things. Am I right? You can multiply that vector by a scalar. You can take a dot product. You can take a cross product. Similarly, you have a del operator. You have three different things that you can do with the del operator. One is gradient. That's this one. We have already done. Okay. Another one is a kind of dot product with the del operator. We call it as divergence. Divergence of a vector field. Divergence, we are going to read like that, okay, divergence of a vector field. So one more thing you can do with the del operator, that's equal curl of a vector field. All three, it has its own physical interpretation. These three can happen with that one. And one more thing can happen, let me just define it later, okay. So v dot del is also possible, but v dot del becomes an operator again. Remember. So del t, it's a vector, am I right? Gradient of a scalar, you have to say like that. That's a vector, am I right? So divergence of a vector, you have to say like that. Divergence of a vector, that's a dot product, that's a scalar. Curl of a vector, that's a vector. Is that okay? You have to write, you have to call it as a curl of a vector, and that's the resultant is a vector, isn't it? So similarly, you can define this one also somewhere in future in the theory. So we are going to define this kind of thing. This is again an operator, okay? Whenever I need, let me define it. This is like that. V dot x cap dou by dou x plus y cap dou by dou y plus z cap dou by dou z. And you can write V as Vx x cap plus Vy y cap plus Vz z cap. If you take dot product, what would happen? Vx into dou by dou x plus Vy into dou by dou y. It's not any scalar or something. That's again an operator, okay? So again, let me not talk about this one right now. I am talking about only these three. Is that okay? That's also possible. This ulta is possible. That's why I just mentioned that. Okay? We call this one as gradient of a scalar, divergence of a vector, curl of a vector, curl of a vector. And divergence is obviously a scalar, curl is a scalar, gradient is a vector. Sorry, curl is a vector. It's a kind of cross product. When you take cross product between any two vectors, resultant is a vector, am I right? Similar analogy, curl is a vector. So divergence is a scalar, it's a kind of dot product. So this is the gradient of a scalar, that's a vector. Now again, I think you got some idea about gradient, okay? I'm not going to talk about gradient again. So let me see what is this divergence. What is this one? Del dot V. Wait a second, when you have change will be yeah, in this whole story we are not talking about relativity. We are not. Why you are saying light? Fire. Okay. Yeah, we are not taking care of relativity right now. So later we will take care of it. So I mean this in whole electrodynamics. So usually initially we take that one as non-relative state. Is that okay? News travels almost instantaneously. Later we take that idea. Yeah. So del dot v vector. Okay, we call this one as divergence. Divergence of a vector field. We call it as divergence of a vector field. Now let me just take that vector in a Cartesian coordinate, Vx into x cap plus Vy into y cap plus Vz into z cap. Am I right? Let me take that one in the Cartesian coordinate. Then what would happen? This dot product, just write down del operator. We have written x cap into dou by dou x plus y cap into dou by dou y plus z cap into dou by dou z, dot product with Vx into x cap plus Vy into y cap plus Vz into z cap. So can I write like this? Isn't it? This dot product, if you define vector in a Cartesian coordinate, now this dot product you can write it as del dot v in a Cartesian coordinate, that's equal to x cap dot x cap 1, x cap dot y cap 0, remember. So dou by dou x of Vx plus dou by dou y of Vy plus dou by dou z of Vz. So kind of derivative of respect to components and adding. Yeah, again, so there are second derivative operators, okay? Let me discuss a little later, Laplacian operator and all. So we shall discuss a little later, okay? Now look at here, again, what is the physical significance? Am I right? So now can you just take a couple of sentences here? Del dot v vector is a measure of how much vector v spreads out or in bracket write diverges from a point in question or from a point of interest. Don't ask what is the question. From the point of interest. Is that okay? Now one thing, by this definition, one thing you have to understand, all these whatever the operation you have done, those are point operation, isn't it? You are going to take gradient, am I right? You are going to take that gradient at one point in space. Isn't those are derivative operator, am I right? Derivative should be taken on point in space, isn't it? I mean, one thing is you can take generally derivative and you can write that one as a function. But actually that derivative should be taken on point in space, am I right? All of these are point operations. You are going to operate these things at one point of space. Is it okay? I mean, you are going to take gradient of a scalar at some point in a space. You are going to take divergence of a vector at one point in space. You are going to take curl of a vector at some point in space. Now read the sentence. What is the sentence? Gradient of a vector del dot v is a measure of how much vector v spreads out from the point of interest, that point at which you are going to take this one. Isn't it? This whole derivative can be taken at different points. Am I right? Usually we write that one as a function. But if you talk about one point, isn't it? That will be one pure scalar quantity. Isn't it? If you just take the derivative, substitute one point in space, you will get pure one scalar quantity. What does it represent? That's a measure of how much vector v spreads out from that point. It's a point operation. Is that okay? It's a point operation. So now one more thing. Let me interpret this one later. Okay, but the next definition. But this definition is very much important when you go from your theorems. What are the theorems? Stokes theorem, Gauss theorem, and Stokes theorem. Am I right? Yeah. So when we talk about Gauss theorem and Stokes theorem, this definition is very important and it will give you a lot of ideas. Okay. Just take one more definition. Divergence is a. Wait a second. Just hold that one. Divergence is a. Just hold that. Is that okay? Mass density. Mass density is a point variable. Am I right? Mass density is a point variable. I mean, if you take so most of our mass is uniformly distributed, or mass density is uniform, but mass density is a point variable. Am I right? Charge density, that's a point variable, isn't it? Suppose if you have anisotropic material, where your density of the mass varies. What do you mean by that? At different point, you can define different density. Am I right? So density, one thing is defining mass density, total mass by total volume. Am I right? And you can define that one dm by dv or d tau. D tau we usually use for volume. Am I right? You can just write like that. Am I right? So that these densities, those are point variables actually. Either charge density or volume density. Either mass density, charge density, whatever the density you take, those are what you call point variable. Suppose if you have a material that is anisotropic, okay, this rho is a function of x, y, z. Your density of mass that will change at different point. That's how we say, am I right? Anisotropic means density will change at different point. Then density is a point variable. Is that okay? Now, how do you find total mass? Then you have to integrate rho x, y, z. So throughout this volume. Am I right? Now that becomes variable. You have to integrate that one properly, isn't it? With respect to that volume element. So that's why. So similarly, look at here. This del dot v. Ultimately, you are getting one function of x, y, z. Am I right? There's a scalar. Ultimately, you are getting a function of x, y, z. Again, that's a point variable. Am I right? At different point, it is taking different value. Now write down. What is that one? Divergence is a volume density of outward flux. Again, I have to define what is flux. I tried to define in the morning. Okay. Volume density of outward flux of a vector field from an infinitesimal volume around a given point. What is this one? That is volume density of outward flux. Okay, you will understand this one after couple of class. Okay. Now look at here. To define this density, you need small volume, isn't it? Unless you can't define that one. Similarly, this is a volume density of a flux, outward flux. So flux is a scalar quantity. Morning I tried to interpret. Am I right? Phi equal to E dot dA like that. Okay. Now I have a vector field V, not electric field. Okay. It's the most general one. Okay. Whatever we are doing, that is the generalized vector calculus here in that one. So that is a volume density of the outward flux. I mean outgoing flux around. So what is the definition? Again, volume density of outward flux of a vector field from an infinitely small volume. If you take a point, so take one infinitely small volume. Usually we take so cubical one. Take infinitely small volume around a given point. Okay. So find the flux which is going outward from that volume. Okay. So that amount of flux divided by volume. That's the volume density. Am I right? Flux divided by mass divided by volume. Small mass divided by small volume. That's the volume mass density. So similarly, so flux, amount of flux going outward divided by volume. That's flux density. Okay. That's equal to, that's a volume density of outward flux from a vector field from an infinitely small volume around a given point. Okay. Let me just interpret this one later. Okay. This idea is very important when you take your Gauss theorem. Yeah, Gauss theorem. Okay. In Gauss theorem, you will understand this one and why I defined like that. Okay. Now look at here. Yeah. Yeah, obviously, if you take the divergence, if at any point, if you got it negative, it's a kind of flux are going inward. Okay, let me discuss this one later. All of this. Okay. So again, here I'm not quoting that one because generalized one. Okay. Yeah, speak up. You will get total flux. Divergences? Obviously, you can integrate scalar. Why not? Why not? Isn't it? You are going to integrate the rho, mass density, to get total mass. So similarly, you can integrate this flux density over a volume to get total flux. So that is our actually Gauss theorem. That's our Gauss theorem. Divergence? No, it's for a vector field. For a single vector. Single vector means it's a constant. Am I right? If there is no variable in that vector equation, obviously this would be 0. It's for a vector field. Again, I haven't defined what is a vector field. Isn't it? How do you define vector field? Now look at here. Yeah, let me take one example. Look at here. Let me take a vector. Let me take vector x into x cap, y into y cap plus z into z cap. Variable. If you take constant vector, obviously your divergence would be 0. Is that okay? Constant vector divergence is 0. Why? Constant vector is not diverging. Isn't it? Constant vector is not diverging. So now look at here. So, but this vector, what is this vector? Again, position vector. Am I right? So now that position vector, you will have some divergence. Am I right? Can't you feel, because that position vector is going outward from the origin? Isn't it? If you have collection of all position vector, at different point you have different position vector. Isn't it? Now look at here. So take del dot v. Take del dot v. Okay, let me interpret this one. Okay, in the next class again, in a different way. What is this one? Dou vx by dou x plus dou vy by dou y plus dou vz by, what is vx? X, vy, y, vz, z. That's equal to 3. It's a constant. It is same at all point in space. Yeah, speak up. Okay. So now look at here. Again, I need some more ideas here. Okay, I need some more ideas. our radial vector field, if you take our radial vector field, that's obviously it's a diverging kind of thing, isn't it? Because it is going outward from that one. It's going outward. And not only that, yeah, after the definition of flux, I better to come to this point. Wait a second. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Now, wherever you take this divergence, look at here, you are getting non-zero. Am I right? You are getting non-zero. So now, suppose, so it is behaving like, again, I need many concepts. I need concept from the flux actually. Yeah, just read out each and every sentence here. If you have a divergence which is non-zero, usually it talks about there is a source actually. There is a kind of source. If some vector field is going outward from any point, there is a source, isn't it? Obviously, if there is no source, it will not go outward, isn't it? So that's why what would happen so again, I need some more electrostatic ideas here. Suppose let me take charge Q here. So obviously your electric field will be like this, am I right? If you take divergence of an electric field, so at any point, usually you will get 0. At any point other than the point of charge, you will get 0. Any idea why? This all gives what you call idea about nature of the electric field. Let me explain later. Because if you take infinitely small volume, number of field lines going into that volume is equal to number of field lines going outward from that volume. If you have a charge, there will be electric field from that charge. Am I right? Again, just take the other definition of divergence. What is the divergence? Volume density of outward flux. Am I right? When you have outward flux from a closed surface, when there is number of field lines going outward is imbalanced with number of field lines going inward. Am I right? Then only you can have outward flux or inward flux, net outward flux or net inward flux. But electric field, it has a very strange nature. It will start from positive charge, it will end with negative charge. It will not terminate in air. Am I right? That's what you have defined. Now you can see that how that is purely mathematical. If you take your electric field equation, okay, take a divergence, you will get divergence 0. What do you mean by divergence 0? Number of flux field line which is going into that one should be equal to number of field line which is going outward from that one. That says divergence is 0 at any other point says, so there is no other source of electric field at any other point. Only source of electric field is this plus Q charge. Electrostatic field, okay? Again question comes. Electrostatic field, I am talking about electrostatic. Is that okay? So that's why, so this divergence of an electric field, later it will give lot of idea, okay? It will give nature of the electric field. What is the nature of the electric field? Electric field cannot terminate in air. If it terminates in air, then there should be some charge at that point. Or if it starts in air, then there should be charge at that point. So that's why whenever that divergence is non-zero at any point in space, you can just think there is some source. So now this is a kind of, there is a source everywhere, isn't it? Now look at here, this divergence is non-zero everywhere, isn't it? There is a source everywhere. Now let me take one more idea, one more mathematical point of view. Again, this one example. So second example. So V is equal to Z cap 1 into Z cap if you are feeling uncomfortable. What are the divergence? Why? Constant vector, am I right? Obviously, or if you apply your derivative, you will get 0. Am I right? What do you mean by that? If you have a constant vector field, you can just, suppose this is Z cap direction. Now I can just, again, so next thing that I am going to represent, how to represent that vector field, okay? First let me take this example, then I will go for how to represent a vector field. That's the best idea. So again, so now can I just draw Again, vector means length of arrow will represent the magnitude, am I right? Now let me just draw it like this. So there are different ways of representing a vector field. Now what I am showing is, if I move along z axis, strength of the vector is not changing. I want to represent that one. How do you represent? There are many ways that's left to you. Now I am going to represent it by like this. What do you mean by a constant vector field? I am talking about vector field now. What do you mean by constant vector field? Yeah, when I move along z axis, strength of the vector is not changing. Am I right? Magnitude is constant. Magnitude is unity. I can represent like that. Now take any volume, take any point and construct an infinitely small volume. Number of inward flux, number of field lines which are going into that one is equal to number of field lines going outward from it. Net outward flux is 0. Or you can say net inward flux. There is no net flux at all. Is that okay? Again, let me define later all of this, because again we need some more concepts from flux. Isn't it? So that's why the divergence is 0. Now the question, how these field lines are created, isn't it? Where is the source? Source is somewhere at the infinity. Is that okay? Source is somewhere at the infinity. Is that okay? So in none of your finite points, or finite region, point in a finite region, you have divergence equal to 0. That means source, nowhere there is a source. Source is at infinity. Is that okay? Now let me come to this one. Now I have to represent that vector field. How do I represent that vector field? Am I right? Now I got divergence equal to non-zero at all points in space. So now how do I represent? Now let me take this is origin. This is a position vector. Am I right? What is the vector field? Position vector field. Now I better to represent that one. It's very difficult. Okay. So now look at here. Strength of the vector should increase. Am I right? Wait a second. There are two ways of representing vector field. One is density of the field line, density of the vector field line. We'll talk about strength. Other one is length of the vector lines. I mean representing in a board, on a board. Length of the vector line. We'll talk about the strength of the vector. We got two choices. One is the density of field line. We'll talk about the strength of the vector. Other one is length of the field line. We'll talk about the. So I mean, now what I do here is, so here what I have done here is, I kept density as well as length same. Am I right? Wait a second. Let me go to next one. Then I will come to this one. Okay. This is little difficult to represent. Let me come to this one. Let me go for this one. Look at it. So third example. Wait a second. V is equal to Z into Z cap. Quickly, whether it has a divergence or not. Okay, don't think of equation. Now look at here. All vector in the vector field points in the same direction. How it is a divergence? It's going in the same direction. Isn't it? That's why the other definition is given like that. Now look at here. When you move along z axis, I have two representation. Okay, I have two representation, two ways of representing this one. Again, you can choose in your way. So suppose if I take z equal to 0 here, it is z axis, z cap. At z equal to 0, your vector is null vector. Am I right? So now when you move along z axis, look at here, your length of the vector is increasing. You can just keep density same. You can just increase length of the vector. Strength of the vector represented by length of the vector. Strength of the vector is represented by length of the vector. But we will not prefer this one. Okay, we will not prefer this one. That's the one possible way. So now if you take any point, usually strength of the vector which is going outward, that is different from strength of the vector going inward. Actually, in your flux you have E dot dA. Remember, magnitude of E also does matter for the flux. Then how did you define flux of electric field? E dot dA, that depends on magnitude of this one also, remember, don't forget. Now, so if you take one infinitely small volume here, electric or field lines which are piercing into that one, which has very less magnitude, field lines which are going outwards from that one, which has more magnitude, then there will be net outward flux according to this equation. But in this one, if you talk about length of the vector as the strength of the vector, so then field lines going into that one, which has the same magnitude as that field lines which are going outward from that one. So that's why net flux was 0. But here it will be non-zero. But I prefer this one, second one. What is the second one? So keep vector length same, increase the density of the field line. Now density of the field line will talk about strength of the vector, because when I move along z axis, vector strength is increasing, am I right? So now there's the another way of representing this one. In this one, look at here, if you take any infinitely small volume again, look at here, number of field lines going into that one is less, number of field lines going outwards from that one is more, obviously, isn't it? So now, if you take a divergence, what is divergence? What does it represent? There is a source everywhere, isn't it? Because it is non-zero everywhere, isn't it? It is non-zero everywhere. That's why there is a source everywhere. But electric field divergence is 0 whenever there is no charge. That's why whenever there is no charge, electric field will never be created, or it never ends in a space actually. Okay? So let me go in a mathematical way. Because once we define electric field, if you want to represent that field, whatever the property you define, electric field will never terminate at A, it will start from positive charge like that. All of those are property of that vector field actually. So how do you say electric field will not terminate at A? Because if you take divergence, it has a property, that is, the divergence is 0 at an empty space if there is no charge. Is that okay? Yeah, let me argue in a different way. Now let me come to this one. Is that okay? Here it was okay because our strength of the vector field is constant. You can just keep its length also constant, density also constant, so that when you move along z axis, vector field strength is not changing. But here you need to show that vector field strength is increasing along z axis. I prefer this one. What is that one? Density of field line. We will talk about strength of the vector. That's why along z axis I have increased density of field line, so that I will get outward flux at all points. Okay. Now let me come to this one. Now let me choose second one. Let me keep vector field length same. Let me increase the what you call density of field line when I go outward from the origin. Is that okay? Because I have divergence equal to constant. Am I right? Now look at here. So to represent this one, I can just choose this one. But this also, no. This is our origin. Still very difficult. Only thing you should able to show, whatever the point you take, if you should have net outward flux of your vector field, and you have to take care, and you can represent that vector field in any way. But your vector field should be in such a way that if you take infinitely small volume at any point, you should have net outward flux. Is that okay? Now, our electric field is a very strange vector field. So now if I have a charge q here, it will go like this. It will never start or end at A. plus q charge. So that's why if you take any volume here, number of field lines which are going into that one is equal to number of field lines going outward from that one if there is no charge within that one. That's why divergence is 0 other than the point of charge, and we shall first show divergence is 0, then we shall discuss what is the property of electric field. That's best right. Is that okay? Whenever I define property of electric field, question comes, how did you say like that, isn't it? So we shall define in a reverse way. So again, solve problem 1.15 and 1.16, okay? Now solve all of this problem. Again, tomorrow morning I am going to continue, okay? Energy will be? No. Again, he is thinking about theory beyond this one, beyond electrodynamics. No. In this case, it is no. If it radiates, obviously its energy should decrease. Am I right? Yeah. No. That is? I'm not talking about, I haven't given any interpretation on this vector field. Isn't it? I'm taking pure mathematics here. I'm taking pure mathematics here. If you have any idea that some vector field is expanding, then we may talk about that one. But I doubt about that one, okay? Again, that's why I told that's the density of the flux. No, I mean, this is a scalar, am I right? That number is a scalar. Now here I got the constant. Suppose if you put z square here, you will get 2z here, am I right? No, that's a variable. In that case, that's a variable, am I right? So now at any point that has one value. Now that value is a density of flux actually. Density of outward flux. That's why I defined the second one, the second definition. First definition will give broad idea. What is that one? What it will represent. Second one gives what exactly it is. What exactly the divergence. That's a density of flux line which is going outward. Net flux, net outward flux. You can say net outward flux. If field lines are going inward, it will give negative. It will automatically give negative. Yeah, he is saying electric field is increasing, electric field is decreasing when you go away from the charge. Am I right? When you go away from the charge. Still, there is a decrease. What's the question? Read out. Electric field is decreasing with increase in distance. Then, strength of electric field is decreasing. Why divergence is 0? Wait a second. Now, strength of the field is decreasing. That can be seen by density of field lines are decreasing here. I haven't said divergence is a measure of strength of the electric field. Isn't it? So, divergence is a measure of net outward flux. Now, in this diagram, we have represented, look at here, now field lines were very, very close to each other here, am I right? So, field lines per unit area, if you take like that, that is decreasing when you go away. That is represented here. In this way of representing that electric field vector, so it is taken care that, electric field strength is decreasing when you go away. Okay? So, divergence is never a measure of strength of the electric field. It's just the outward flux density of the outward flux or inward flux sometimes. Okay, that is equal to 0. that is equal to 0 for electric field. Yeah. Now that's why, look at here, we have two ways of representing that one. One is arrow length, decrease or increase the arrow length. Other one is, so this one. But look at here, yeah, I better to say, actually we have to go in the reverse way. I should not draw this one first, I should not interpret. I have to first take Coulomb's law, I have to define electric field, then I have to take divergence, I have to show divergence is 0, then I have to try to draw this one. Whatever the method I followed earlier, that was correct. First I have taken the question, then I have taken the divergence, then I try to draw that one. The same thing we have to do for electric field actually. Okay? First do everything, whatever you want to do, I mean whatever the operation you want to do everything with the electric field. So then go for drawing that one. You have to draw like this, isn't it? Suppose, look at here, if you have drawn like this, suppose. So flux should increase like this. Now if you get you will get non-zero here, right? Divergence non-zero, but electric field from the Coulomb's law, it will give divergence 0 or outside the charge actually. Outside the charge from Coulomb's law, mathematically, it will give divergence 0. After seeing the divergence 0, we better to go for drawing that vector field, and we have to draw it like this. Is that okay? Once we draw like this, we have taken care of its field strength. What is that one? Density of field lines is decreasing when it goes away. When you move away from the charge, number of field lines per unit area, if you define like that, that is decreasing. We have taken care of that one. No, we get 0 because it will not terminate at air. That is the other property. No, it's not due to that density of field lines are decreasing from the plus Q charge. It is not due to, I mean, so look at here. Let me draw it like this. So the whole mathematical thing about the electric field, it says you have to draw electric field like this. Best way of drawing the electric field like this. Yeah, now ask the question. Yeah, field strength decreases. That means density of field lines are decreasing, but field lines are not terminating at the mid-air. Now let me take one small volume. You imagine this is small, okay? Number of incoming rays should be equal to number of outgoing rays. Yeah, left hand side is close to the charge, but in the left hand side, so left hand side is close to the charge. Your field strength is okay. Field strength is more. Then right side is, yeah, that's correct. Your argument is correct. You feel like that, but we have to do in a reverse way. First, we have to show del dot E equal to 0 outside the charge. That is a mathematical outcome. That's what I told. My last sentence was that. First, to explain that one. First, you have to show like that. Del dot E equal to 0 outward from the charge. So then, now how do you write? Again, you have to again, your electric field is inversely proportional to 1 by R square, isn't it? Suppose R is the distance from the charge. Now you have to show both of them. By taking these two, we are getting into this kind of vector field, isn't it? So now, yeah, let me take it in the next class. Again, there are a lot of interpretation in Griffiths. If you read, definitely that will be convinced. Remember. So now look at here. It's not just like strength is what you call, while representing, we will not think about strength. Strength will be talked by the density. Strength will be talked about the density. Now look at here. So again, if you had that area perpendicular to that one, take one unit area, if you had the area perpendicular to that one, if you had the area nearby this one, you will get more field lines. If you had the area far from that one, you will get less one. That will talk about the strength of the line. But if you take a closed surface, so field line will pierce from one point, it will go away from another. So how I got that idea? After getting this one. After getting this one, I went for what you call drawing the electric field. Okay, this says electric field will not terminate at midair. You will get net flux only when it terminates at midair. Isn't it? And one more thing, simultaneously I have to show this property of field strength is decreasing. Now take one small patch of area. So had that area nearby the charge, flux is maximum. Had that area away from that one, flux is minimum. That I mean flux per unit area. That will talk about strength of the field, not a length of the vector. In this case, we should not talk about the length of the vector. You will end up with a turtle. Is that okay? After taking these two, I'll go for drawing them. So that's why you better to again. So try to draw those vector field after taking the divergence. That's the best idea. So that after doing this kind of operation with the electric field, you will definitely get an idea about electric field. What is the electric field? What is the nature of the electric field? Is that okay? So, but if you take infinitely small area, infinitely small volume with charge at the center of that volume, then obviously field lines are going outward. Am I right? You are getting net flux. Actually, there's a kind of Dirac delta. Let me discuss this. It's a kind of Dirac delta. It is non-zero or it is infinite at one point. It is zero outside that point. It is zero outside the charge. Is that okay? Yeah, lot of interpretation can be done here. First, again, solve all problem. Try to interpret that one. Okay. Even a small sentence he has given, he is expecting something from that one. Okay, some physical interpretation that he may be expecting. Try to do that. Okay. Yeah. So take divergence and try to interpret what kind of vector field it is. Again, he has given find the divergence of r cap by r square. What is r cap by r square? It's a kind of electric field. Yeah. In between them. So then electric field lines are starting from one charge, it will end at other charge. Positive, then it will end at infinity. Plus q, okay? It will go like this actually, they will repel each other, am I right? They will start from the positive charge, they will end at infinity only. They will never end at midair. No, divergence 0 doesn't mean that field is 0. Is that okay? Divergence 0 doesn't mean that field is 0. Divergence 0 means there is no source of vector field at that point. That's why I want to interpret. Okay, wait a second. Yeah, it feels like electric field is 0 when you draw it like this. Am I right? Now, actually, this all electric field is a kind of imaginary one. Okay, he writes in the later chapter, number of electric field you drawn, it depends on how sharp your pencil is and how lazy you are, and also how lazy you are. Yeah. So somewhere here field should be 0. That's what you are saying. No, it will not be 0. It will not be 0. Yeah, it may be 0. Wait a second. If you take a test charge, you can prove that net force is 0. You can show. How do you show field is 0? Again, before electric field, we had Coulomb's law that talks about force. Am I right? Now take one test charge Q here. So now this is opposed in this direction. This is opposed in this direction. Assume that somebody is holding those charges. Okay. Somebody is holding those charges. Let me come to that point. Okay. Obviously, net force is 0. If net force is 0, electric field should be 0. That's correct. At the exact middle point, force is 0. Am I right? Force on the test charge is 0. Force is 0 only when electric field is 0. That's correct. But look at here. I can't say electric field is 0 here because if you are less lazy, you may draw some more field line here. Isn't it? That's how he says. Or your pencils are very sharp, I can draw more number of field lines. Isn't it? But exactly at middle point, whatever you said, that's correct, because you can show force is 0. Force on the test charge is 0. Either you take negative, negative, or positive, positive. You can show like that. That's correct. But I can't, here also you feel like that, am I right? Exactly at the middle somewhere, there should be no electric field. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Electric field does not diverge. Okay, yeah, I was expecting. It looks like it is diverging everywhere, am I right? Wait a second. We shall discuss some pure mathematics. Then I'll let you draw the vector field. Think over it. I'm saying we have to go in a reverse way. First, we have to do whatever the operation with the electric field. Then we should try to draw the field lines. Is that okay? But I try to do it in a ulta way. That's why I stuck here. But initially I was careful. I have taken vector field, I have taken divergence, and I tried to draw that one. And we have to do the same thing for electric field. Okay? Yeah. The question is, even though it looks like diverging, why divergence is 0? So that's why the other definition is it's a flux density, outward flux density. Okay, because first definition is not comfortable always. Yeah, you can take at the point of the bulb. At the point of the bulb, it is diverging. But at other point, usually field lines are going into some area, going outward from that area. Am I right? If you take vacuum, light will travel to the infinite distance. It will not attenuate. Am I right? Electric field will work like that. It will not attenuate. If it attenuated, then you would have got some divergence like that. But light rays will act exactly same because you have inverse square law for light rays also. Intensity will fall like 1 by r square from a bulb. You can show that. Okay, from a bulb, intensity of the light will fall like 1 by r square. Intensity is nothing but number of light rays per unit area. Okay, light rays will also follow the similar property as that of charge. Yeah. Middle. Here, why would force would be 0? Look at here. Force is this one. You have net force here. Now, force is non-zero. Potential may be 0. No, not even potential is 0. Obviously, potential 0 means field is 0. Force is non-zero. Just draw the component of the force. Superposition principle. You can take force due to individual length and you can add up. Only at this point force is 0. You can say electric field is 0. Okay. Yeah, we shall work out mathematics and then again let me try to interpret. Okay. So maybe tomorrow I will be a little more active. Again, one more concept is missing No, two more concepts. One is digital to analog converter, and another one is a little bit introduction to polyatomic number. In GATE exam, they may ask question. Okay, so remind me tomorrow evening.